Okay, accept the minutes of the 2/12 meeting, 25.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept them.
Second.
Okay, any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Review the presentation of that was made to the select board on 12/19. Did anybody, particularly select board member, hear anything from their fellow members?
I haven't heard anything other than what was going on at the meeting. I've heard from one or two people about the wood pellets, but nothing from anybody else on the board.
Okay. Nothing, anybody?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Any scuttlebutt around town? Did you hear about the dollar figure or anything?
No, I didn't really hear anything,
No.
yay or nay. The wood pellet thing, I don't know.
Well, I did some research on the wood
Okay.
pellets.
Well, we already talked about that.
Yeah, I know. And you have
The
to,
problem is, the thing is, somebody brings it up at the meeting.
yep, you gotta
We discussed
consider
And,
it.
Yep.
and then they bring it up at town meeting, they put doubt in everybody's mind.
Yep.
And it's like, well, what, this and that, I mean, I don't think anybody here thinks wood pellet is the greatest thing in the world we should be looking at. But what's the background on why we shouldn't, other than we don't like it?
Yeah.
And this guy said, I don't know who the gentleman was that was talking. You remember?
Jack Edwards.
Was it?
Jack Edwards.
Jack
is his
Edwards?
name, yeah. He lives up Hawk Meadow, that thing off of North Maple Street.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so he mentioned this thing called MVP. And so I asked the architect, I asked Greg what he knew about MVP. And he says, well, that MVP is a very big program. It goes everything from, covers everything from residential homes to some businesses and on to cities and towns. MVP stands for Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness. Because I couldn't, at the meeting, I couldn't tell if he said MVP or MVP. And so anyways, find out that it's MVP, that's what it stands for. And it started during COVID, was when the state kicked it out. It's a program that's unique to the state of Mass. And it covers everything from back in COVID, people could apply for, I guess for lack of a better word, a grant. And it would cover stuff like putting in wood pellets, renewable energy, stuff like that, separate from the solar energy rebate stuff that the state has. And it was limited to, I think it was like $1,500 to $2,000. But that program, even though the name is still there, that part of the program is no longer offered. It was closed back in, I want to say three years ago, near the end of COVID, they stopped doing that. Then there's another thing, part of the MVP called municipal, the vulnerability part. And there's all kinds of towns in this area that have gotten money anywhere from $15,000 to $300,000 plus. It's all about preparing your town in case of a disaster, be it flooding, tornado, hurricane. Some of the stuff that they listed, all the towns, the money that was granted to them to do, mostly it's doing studies. It's not actually doing any real work to do this. It's about studying for in case of a hurricane, in case of a flood, what can you do? And from there, I guess there's other grants you can apply for. Then there's one about renewable energy, for lack of a term. And it covers doing some solar stuff. It covers biofuel. Basically, it's a big biofuel thing. And the grants are given out once a year. And if we wanted to apply, we need to have the money approved, and we need to apply by April 5th, 2025. Doesn't say what kind of money is available. It just says that if you want to apply, this is the deadline, and this is what you need to apply for. So, as well, we're not going to meet 4 or 5/25 because we're not going to have money, and it just says, like I said, it mentioned biofuels in there. And it did have a 90-10 grant thing, but the 90-10 grant, 90% grant was something that expired basically a few years ago, and that's not even being offered anymore. So that's where the pellet fuel, so-called wood pellets grant is. You know, the architect doesn't think wood pellet fuel is the best thing to be recommending for us, and I don't think anybody really disagrees with that.
Maybe we should speak about why, just so the people, the townspeople know why we don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, okay, I mean, it's a big maintenance thing. The maintenance on any kind of a wood pellet thing, you've got to clean it frequently. The place that had the wood pellets, they had just gotten it, and this was the first heating season that they had with it. And, you know, it's a brand new system, and so far they haven't had any troubles with it. But they do have, you know, it does burn a fair amount of wood fuel. Is it cheaper than oil or gas? That's probably going to be all over the place. It depends on the price of everything. You know, one year gas is more than oil. The other way, different years is the other way around. Wood pellets, depending, I would guess, on supply and demand, like anything else.
It's like anything in that stuff. Once, you know, oil goes high,
They all,
Pellets.
you go to wood or pellets, and eventually that catches up, and it comes out
Yeah.
to be, usually the average, the BTUs that you're getting out of something is about the same.
It just seems to be that there's got to be augers, conveyors,
Right.
moving that stuff
the
around.
silo, just a whole.
It's a lot of extra equipment. I mean, granted, okay, if you were able to get 90% reimbursed by the state or grant from the state, the actual installation costs may not be much different than number two, fuel, oil, or gas. I won't disagree with that, but it's a big maintenance. Ask anybody who has a pellet stove.
No.
Maintenance on a
Versus a
pellet
propane
stove.
furnace.
It isn't so much that it's a lot of maintenance. It takes some maintenance. Way more than a fuel burner or a gas burner. You got to clean it. You got to empty the ashes, and you truly have to clean it like you would, you know, vacuum out, because it gets a lot of soot and ash inside of it. And they're way bigger equipment, more space-wise, than a gas or oil furnace. The ones that we
Oil,
saw,
yeah.
they had to be, what I want to say, they have to be a good 4-foot diameter. Must have been, I want to say 8 feet, 9 feet tall.
Yep.
And
There was what, 4
that
of
would,
them?
they had 3 of them because, well, I guess they had 3 of them basically as a kind of a backup feature. They only needed, at the time, they only needed to run 1 or 2 because it wasn't that cold yet. One was basically an installed spare from the way the gentleman was talking about. He said so far they've been, you know, other than emptying the ash, they haven't been much of a problem. Well, they're brand new. They were just put in. I think last year this was the first heating season, like he said. But if something fails on those, you know, it can be pretty pricey to start repairing them.
Because they're proprietary.
Yeah, these
You're
things.
not going to get a plumbing company or somebody to come in and get parts. You have to go back to the manufacturer.
Yeah.
If they're still manufacturing that brand, we've bought several off-brand things down there over the years, you know, because they were cheaper to buy.
Yeah.
Oh, here we call up, oh, well, that was experimental. We had to change that. So that bearing now is a whole new plate. You got to put in a whole new bearing and
Yeah.
everything else.
Now with the pellets, that's still a hot water option. That
Yeah,
wasn't just forced.
it basically it just heats. It
Yeah.
can be forced hot air. It
Yeah,
can be
okay.
oil. I mean, not oil, but it can water, whatever you want to do. So it's just a boiler, basically a boiler. But they aren't made in the United States. They're made, what do you say, in Sweden or Switzerland, something like that. There's no American company that makes this thing this big. It's all made overseas. So if you want, there is I guess a rep in the East Coast that does it. But there's not a lot, like you said,
There's not a lot of
you're not
people.
going to call your local oil
Right.
supplier.
Or your
And if you can't
plumber,
get Kirish
yeah.
Oil, you can call CERN, you can call this. The same thing with what you call it, gas.
Yeah.
You're going to go to that company, and if they're not available,
Well, they don't have that part. sitting there burning NIPCOs.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the best of option from a long-term heating point of view and reliability and cost-wise. Even though the installation cost will probably be a wash, it's not going to be less expensive. Probably be a wash on the installation, even if we could get the grant, but it's the long-term maintenance is going to be the problem.
Right.
All right, we already talked about, any people, have anybody heard anything from townspeople on anything?
Well, I've been hearing that rumors around from
Okay.
different places that this isn't gonna make it to town meeting, this vote for this building.
It's not going to make it to town
Right.
meeting?
That there's a chance that it could get pulled.
Okay.
And I don't know where that started. I haven't heard anything about that. You're probably the third or fourth person I've heard that from.
Yeah.
And I have not heard anything from town hall relative to that. And if I did hear it, I would be vehemently against it.
Okay.
I was talking with David earlier. Town meeting gave this committee the money to get where we're at with the anticipation
Of coming
that
back
we
to
were
them.
going to come back with a plan for a new building. So at least they're entitled to hear where we're at and what it's gonna cost and make a decision.
Right.
So-
And now there is an out to that. It's not a good one, but if for some reason, I'm just going to say this, not that it's a true thing. It's just let's say hypothetically, if somebody would decide we're not going to put it on the warrant, it's an annual town meeting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2, 4, 6, 7 with Walt and what do you call it?
Andy.
Andy. That's 9 of us. All we need is 10 signatures, or you can't use your, if you're not a town warrant. Right? But 10 signatures will put the article on a town meeting warrant. And they don't have a choice. That's state law. So we could force it on a warrant if we absolutely had to. Might make a lot of people a bit upset if that was to happen, so that's not the best of option, but it is a possibility.
But if
So-
you don't have the support from selectmen or finance committee, it's
Yeah,
not gonna go too
right.
far.
But I mean, but to Randy's point, at least bring it to town meeting and, realizing we probably may not pass, but we want to tell you what's going on so we can at least hear town people, because we can have a lot of public meetings, try to get people, we'll get some input, but town meeting is the proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
And, we'll see. Okay.
I've heard negative and through other department heads, because they probably want money spent in their areas versus Scott's area, but, that's just
Yeah, I mean.
something I'm hearing.
Yeah, well,
I thought Molly's comment was, about the office space, was somehow you gotta get the price down
yeah,
for it to pass, but
I mean, other than the house, and I'll get to that, and she mentioned about putting the office space someplace else in town.
We don't have it.
There's no place else in town we can put
Not
office
that.
space.
You're gonna be building it.
Rentable, like usable. You gotta rento whatever space
There's
you
no-
have.
There's no room in the town hall.
No.
Library,
You're certainly not-
library,
you're not gonna
Russell
give-
Street, they're all.
There's nothing available.
Viable.
The library and the only other choices we have are the library and this place, and there's no office space for the DPW, and you don't want the DPW, I mean, nothing against the DPW, but they're not always got the best, they're gonna have junk on their shoes.
we can buy a new trailer for 2 to 5 years and take it down in 30 years from now.
Well, that's,
So, I mean,
you're pushing it further down, I get it.
And separating,
It just
that
doesn't.
just makes no sense. The efficiency goes way down.
You're still gonna build a building,
yeah.
no matter what.
There's still gonna be some crossover.
So-
There's just a lot
Now,
of.
I did push, whatever the word you want to use, both Greg on getting a real price on doing the house over. Let's say, I said, forget the second floor. Can we just make the first floor office space? And take the office space out of the DPW, rehab the first floor so that you can put offices in there for, the foreman, for Scott, and for the receptionist, and move that out of the office space of the DPW building.
It's not square
And-
footage.
Well, that's what I was, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot by doing that, because now you're saying you don't need 6,000 square feet of office space, you're all right with 1,200 on the first floor of this
Well, no,
house.
what I'm saying is, you would still have the restrooms, right now, the office space is roughly 5,200 square feet.
Yeah.
And the office takes up probably half of that, give or take. So we would put in, you would lose a little bit of space, absolutely you would.
Yeah.
But let's say we cut it down and we put that over into the building. What would that save us? And he said, well, you're gonna abate the asbestos. We're gonna abate the asbestos.
No matter
whether
what,
we
tear it down or-
save it
yeah.
or get rid of it. So that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But you gotta make it the building code. If you don't wanna use the second floor, okay, you could just leave that as a space up there. You gotta reinforce it to current building code, at least the first floor. You're gonna make it handicap accessible and a whole bunch of other stuff. The cost would probably be about $750,000.
Yeah.
And he says you would probably save about that much by moving the office space out of the existing building. So you would save nothing. He said very likely it might cost you a bit more than doing the building.
I kind of question that because, originally he's telling us the office space is the most expensive place to build in the whole building. And that's what brings everything up to $750 a square foot. I just can't see, maybe his $750,000 is a good shot in the dark, but not at $750 a square foot if you're taking out, how many square feet are we taking out? It just seems.
What's the first floor of that, 800 square
Yeah,
feet?
gotta be
If
maybe
that.
1,000 max.
Maybe, right.
Yeah.
No, I don't think.
But he's not building from scratch, he's renovating.
Yeah, but
Did you ask
It
him?
would be cheaper to
Well,
build.
honestly,
it's cheaper
it's
to build
gotta
from
be.
scratch
It
than
would
to
be
renovate.
Sometimes to renovate costs more a square
Yes.
foot
Right,
than it
a
is
lot
building
more.
new.
What,
Yeah.
$750?
Well, buildings,
I don't
400
know.
square
We
foot
just-
for
Yeah.
residential, now you talk plus prevailing wage.
Did you ask
and
him
commercial.
about?
Yeah, You're talking prevailing wage here, that's the big kicker.
Yeah,
Exactly.
people don't
If you were-
understand this.
If you had this gentleman build it versus prevailing wage, you're talking a
Should've bought
whole
it
different
first, get it off
category.
it.
Yep.
Right.
But that's state law, we don't have,
Yeah,
that's
there's no
your stuff.
option there.
Did you ask him about renovating a portion of the white garage for office space?
No, I didn't, I mean,
Well,
I
he
didn't
talked
get into
about
that.
You're
The
still gonna
top-
bring the-
we
it's a
we
change
did
of
talk,
use,
we
so you
did
gotta
talk
redo
about
that.
renovating a portion of the garage years ago. And the problem is, once you exceed, 30%, 35% the price of the building, you renovate the entire thing whether you like it or not. So you
Well-
bring the whole building up to
At least
current
the
building
code,
code.
yeah, the
Yeah.
places you use.
But-
It's not-
Let's say we could easily renovate the maintenance bay today and make that the office space. But now we need to bring the rest of the building up to building code.
But as far as going to town meeting, I think it makes sense to know, okay, so if we got to sprinkler the rest of the building and put office space in the maintenance garage, if we had a price, like he's given us a price for this whole garage, a price for this, and then taking out all that square footage of other office space, at least you can tell the townspeople. Because you know what? You're gonna have the same discussion as we're having right now, because we don't have any real numbers or square footage.
Well, that's easy enough to get a price out of him on renovating the garage.
But don't let them just throw something out there. Have them draw something up and say, so we can have option one or option two. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
yeah.
I think right now, the existing building is probably gonna be the least dollar amount option, the way we present it now. If we turn it into office space.
Like you said, it's gonna
Now
bring-
now we're doubling up bathrooms.
But at least we
Yeah.
have real numbers
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say to the
Yeah,
townspeople.
you're right, because you're gonna have to put the same amount of bathrooms in that
Right.
building.
Yeah, bring
You're
that all
gonna
up
be
to
jackhammering
code.
up the floor to put the pipes in as
Yeah.
opposed to laying it before you put a new concrete in.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the biggest deal we've saw.
No,
No, but
it's
many
added
things
cost,
that
yeah.
work, yeah, you
Right now,
ask.
it's gonna cost us almost nothing.
I know,
for that
but
building.
I would just like to see a
Here's
real
the basic-
plan.
I think, what did he say? What do you want to do besides painting?
You want to paint the
You like
outside,
to paint
which
the
I
outside.
agree.
It needs to be repointed and painted, but
Which is minimal.
Yeah.
Right now, there's no money in the accounts for that, or it
But
would have been done.
You guys may be all right,
Yeah.
but until you can show the townspeople a plan
Yeah.
with a price,
Well,
we're just talking through our butt, really.
Oh, yeah.
They've got a point there because people, the same thing with the wood pellets. We did some research, we had good answers, okay? We have good answers on the house. What about the existing garage? That's really the only available space we could move to that would make sense where you could split, if you would, the office space and a garage. I mean, they're only gonna be 250, 200 feet apart. They won't, whatever it means, 300 feet, 200 feet, whatever. But it wouldn't be it wouldn't be inconvenient if they were to do that, if the price made sense.
If you put the office over in the, it's just say hypothetically, does that need to be sprinklered, that whole building then?
Probably.
Yes, because you're
Yeah.
kicking in 25% of the
Yeah,
building.
because it's oversized,
Yeah,
and
the
it's
size of
over so
it.
many square
But-
cubic
but-
feet.
Well, the cost
Go by
gonna hit
cubic
the
feet, right?
30% for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. If
Valuation.
the price is lower,
Yeah.
in dollar amount for the office space, wherever it is, here or there, whatever is lower, then you can present it to the townspeople.
Sprinklering really, from what different people have told me, and I'm only telling you what they've told me, isn't as expensive as you may think.
Right.
Like you can sprinkler a house for about 10 grand in general. You know, that's not that bad.
No, not considering that, price per square foot of something, that's.
Yeah, you know, so, and the thing about sprinklering the garage, it's pretty much wide open to do it. So probably might be,
2 lines down the thing.
yeah, a couple of lines down, a couple offsides, and you get a couple of wall penetration, but because everything is gonna be exposed, I mean, it's gonna be like you go into like a Home Depot where all the sprinklers are exposed, all the pipes, it's a big deal.
But let's think about this a little bit. Let's say
Yes.
we do this.
Yeah.
So
You
we
know.
now lost all that extra space.
Storage for.
Yeah.
Storage that we've been talking
Parts and stuff
about.
you're gonna put in
Yeah.
there.
At the end of the day, let's say it cost $500,000 to rehab the existing building. Now we're saving all of $250,000. And down the road, we're gonna need that extra storage space. We're gonna need whatever. We're creating a hodgepodge, which is what we
Right.
have now. And my opinion is we do it right or we don't do it.
Right, I agree. We were tasked with coming up with the best price. I don't like saying cheapest because that
Yeah.
makes it sound
There's a
like
lot of good options.
we're building a library. I think we've done due diligence on picking out the better stuff that there is, not overloading it. I mean, personally, I'd like to see some more space in there for future growth, but we've cut that out. We're not adding to it. We've got the other shed that we're gonna move out. I think we got 5 storage Connex boxes in a shed and all that stuff that's gonna fill that up. But we're coming up with the best price. If we don't do this now, we are saving money by doing this now. If this doesn't pass, like they said, and you come back in a year,
It's at least 10%.
it's 10 or 20%, who knows? And then after a point, you're gonna be paying them to redesign the whole thing again, because all it takes is one code change, and it's going back to the drawing board again.
The, Greg did say, I asked him about some prices, and he says, hold off on using your $20 million right now. He says, did he say who's it doing, Boxborough?
Boxborough. That's what I've been
Boxborough.
talking
They actually have a similar size garage as we do, as what we're proposing. And he says they're going out to bid, I think he said this spring.
So they're,
So by the time you get to town meeting, we should have prices on them, on that item. He said, realize this, they have about $2 million in site work before they can even put their garage up. He said, but that's easy enough to break out of the bid. He says, well, once we get a price from them, he said, we can have a better idea on where your square footage cost per dollar will come in. And I said, okay. So he says, don't jump to any crazy conclusions yet about going out with your $20 million. He says there's a good chance that it could be less. He says, how much less? We'll have to wait and see what comes out with this bid project with Boxborough.
And the tariffs. The tariffs that are on here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that very well may be true, but if we don't get it passed at this town meeting, everybody's been saying right along, yes, it's gonna cost more next year. It's also gonna cost us more to get the architect back to reprice it. Again, because
Right.
now this 250,000 or 225,000
Right, this is all-
is kind of
Right.
wasted.
You're talking about saving money. This is your chance to save money.
But that's
You
why,
go
Gary,
further.
and I know it's not ideal for you and Scott as far as, but I'd really like to see a drawing and a price on taking the mechanics bay and making that office space. And yes, okay, so you probably bathrooms and sprinkler and this and that. If it's more to renovate, great, we can tell everybody we looked at this option. Right now, we talked about this option, we haven't looked at it. And
You get a price. You're gonna be-
wouldn't you
Yeah.
rather get project B versus no project? You know, no garage?
Oh, I don't have a problem redoing that garage, but I mean, I think people are gonna look and go, you got 4 women's toilets in this one and 4 women's toilets in that one. What the heck?
But we can just blame Tom.
That's right.
Well,
But in reality, until you get a real drawing and real prices,
Yeah.
everybody, you know how town meeting goes, they're gonna be there until 3 o'clock in the morning because they're gonna argue like we're talking right now. Just get a drawing, get a price. These guys are still under contract, it's not costing us anything, because they said they would redraw as many times as they need to, right up to town meeting. Let them draw.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, just to David's point about having numbers that we can show people, and then they can make a decision. Because right now, it's just, well, I think this, and I think that, and you think this, and he thinks that, and nobody's got anything solid to make a decent decision on.
Yeah.
So I have no problem
Yeah,
doing that.
I'll get a hold of the architect, ask him to do just what we're talking about here with that. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. I said, but at least a decent drawing with some prices on it, what's gonna be required, and
Yeah, what it kicks into the rest of the building.
you know,
and-
what can be saved, you know, exactly, bring the building up to whatever it takes the building to code. A good thing is the building structurally it's in good shape.
Right. I do know he said if we do that, we're gonna have to redo the electrical service coming in, which was
Right.
all redone recently, but since it's grandfathered and you're not changing anything, because that gets into some big
Yeah.
chunk of change too.
So, okay.
I have I've been hearing from, I won't say a lot of people, but a few, about the complexity of the presentation. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff to be able to put forth. So I've been thinking about this a lot. And I know that we talked about not having the architect present, but I think that we need to set this up somehow so that the architect is presenting most of the stuff, because this guy, he eats and sleeps this thing.
Yep.
If you get up there, Jimmy, and you know people start asking questions, you go. So my thought was, you introduce like you did at the select board. This is the committee, blah blah blah. This is where we're at, and I want to turn it over to Greg or whoever, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not say that, but you know what I mean.
That's certainly fine with me.
I mean, and when it comes time for answering questions, whoever's better qualified to answer.
Yeah, depending what the question is, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, because, I mean, Greg will be there, get the OPM there in a committee, and whoever is the most, there's a good point, whoever's the most appropriate person to answer the question
Right.
is what it should
Yeah.
be.
And then we should also talk to Linda Sanderson and have her have numbers for us, so that after the presentation, she can then speak her magic
Yeah.
about what it's gonna
That- yeah,
cost.
that
The one thing
needs to be
we
done
need for the
before.
presentation is a good
Number.
cost on the tax rate, as
Right.
opposed to, I mean, I had two costs. They were, you know, 97 cents versus $1.47. That's a heck of a difference on your tax bill. One was gonna be on a $390,000 house. I think, I got it right here. Remember,
But shorter is better. I think Randy's right.
One was going to
you know.
be $90 to on a quarter for a $390,000 home. 92 cents on a tax rate would be about $90 a quarter. $1.47 would be 143. So that's a big difference,
Right.
or big range. And we simply need to go to town meeting with a number
Pretty hard
that
numbers.
Yeah,
is
it's
very realistic as opposed to
Without
the
those
range.
numbers, you might as well not go.
Right.
That's all
Yeah.
people are gonna look at.
Right.
It's,
Yeah,
you know,
that's exactly
That's the bottom
correct.
line.
I think
Yeah.
75 to 80% of people in town realize that they need something. But out of that, they're gonna say, well, they don't need that much, or I can't afford it, or yes, I can afford it, but I don't want to pay that much money, you know? And, you know,
Yeah.
all of us in here could all come up with a different answer on how we feel about paying it,
Yeah.
you know? So
And
that's what you're gonna get at town
I
meeting.
think the point is, like Gary said, we were basically appointed to do a study. This is the study, we've got approval to do a design with a price. We come forward with the best price, with the best design we can for what we can meet the town's needs, and see where it goes. That's all we're gonna be able to do.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, you come up with the tax figure number, that's, you know, and if it's accurate, that's not gonna change as far as this money goes. What's gonna change is if you wait till next year and it goes, the building cost goes up 10%, then
Yeah.
you're gonna be adding to that. You're not gonna go down.
Would it make sense to, just worst case scenario with this whole project, to have an article on standby, at least for the 100 grand, to demo the house, abate the house and demo the house? Because obviously I think we're in consensus the house is
I think the house is,
somewhat of no use. So if this project doesn't move forward
And the house is uninsurable too.
and the house is still there, that we can
People
at
have
least deal with the
liability.
It's a
house.
liability,
Yes.
yeah.
I think that's a good idea, at least get rid of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, however,
That
however
needs to-
you.
Right, we need
do
to complete
this,
that.
At least,
well, it's almost
You know,
a
we can get
two-part
rid of
kind
that.
of thing,
Yeah.
you know, is there an option? Is it better to go to this and vote yes or no? Or is it better to vote on a A or a B? Here's an option A, $20 million, your tax rate is this. Here's an option B. Can we do $10 million worth of building in office space? What does that look like?
Yeah, but you still don't have a truck wash,
Why?
none of that, so.
But is it better to get it squashed and not do it at all?
Well,
Or is it better,
I
let the
think you're
people
better off at this
decide?
point not to do it at all.
Well, maybe his B isn't 10 million, maybe it's 15.
Yeah, like, I don't know. And this is what you lose. Here's the
Yeah.
pros and cons, and this is what we're,
Correct.
we're not getting.
Like Greg said, it's not ideal to design to a number. You should design to what.
Right,
they
you
need.
design to the best building that we
And
think
I
is
agree, you know, but like,
reasonably,
Well,
Yeah.
you can't, how do I say this? You can't have one article with an A or a B.
right.
You'd have to have two separate articles. One would be this project, and one would be something different.
but are you
And-
increasing your odds?
And you would significantly confuse
And
people.
here's the other problem, and this has happened quite a bit lately. At town meeting, depending on who you get there,
Yeah.
pretty much everything passes.
Like, yeah,
Something like this, when it goes to the ballot,
Yeah,
That's where you're gonna.
that's when it's gonna come down to
Yeah.
the vote. Because, you get 200 or 300 people to show up at town meeting,
yeah.
and
Oh, it's
it could
definitely-
possibly
yeah.
pass, it may not. If it passes at that point, it could pass there.
Yeah.
When it goes to the vote,
Yeah. but-
that's when
but
it's gonna
The fire
matter.
truck the first time.
Yeah,
And then when it came to the second time, it's not that the people were in favor of it. It's just that when it went to the ballot, more people voted that were in favor
Right,
of it.
that's the thing.
yeah.
And we
Everybody
can't-
sits at, or doesn't go to town meeting because it's not really affecting their wallet.
we can't eliminate that wash bay, because by the time we do get this building up, then 2 days later, DEP is gonna come in and say, oh, guess what, guys? You need a wash bay.
Yeah.
And that's gonna cost us
And there's,
10 times
and
as
there's
much
more
as-
than that that's gonna start happening if this doesn't go through.
Well, do we
They-
compile a list?
I mean, you can't compile because, I mean, like I said, we built the North Station. Before we got done with it, we had to put a locker room in the back and take
Yeah.
up some of the space.
But is there
we've
a-
got, We've got insurance guys that have come down there and said, all right, listen, we're gonna let this slide, you guys don't have too much money, but just do this.
Yeah.
You know, they keep coming down. Every time something happens, they come down and go through the place. So anything that changes, now you're gonna be addressing it, whether it's, you know, the DEP, like you said. Somebody's gonna be going after a snowstorm down with a hand truck full of quarters to run the machine down there, and two guys are gonna be sitting there all day washing stuff off.
There's, you make some good points there. Those should be part of the presentation at town meeting.
Well, I think we need to make a list of what it's gonna cost us in the very near future, because that comes off of the other side.
That's right.
Gary, when's he coming? This Thursday or next Thursday? Or 2 Thursdays from now? Peter's thing, so the DEP is paying us a visit down there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's right, next week, I think.
Well, we don't want to go and raise red flags for these guys to start picking on things, but you do have to have, you know, a decent list.
I mean, they've already been down and basically
Yeah.
told us you've got 72 hours after a snowstorm to wash the vehicles outside. You're using sewer effluent water because there's not enough water and pressure in the street to do it. You know, so you're out back washing it off, and it's got to be warm enough so it melts.
Yeah.
And then I won't tell you where it's going, but
Is
they'll
our,
figure it out. It's easy enough.
water line still moving along?
Who's coming down? What department?
So
I'm saying.
yes, the water line. I was started with one firm and I'm not getting any response, and today we moved on to a different one. So yeah, I'm plugging away with it, and it's just,
Because if this thing kind of just flat out no by townspeople, be great to get rid of that house, be great to get the water line, so in 2 or 3 years, when we're sitting at this table again, at least those things are out of the way, you know?
yeah,
Or maybe even your salt shed.
yeah.
It'd be, like you said, you park that out back, it's a separate contract, you get rid of the house, you get the water line in. And yeah, we're all paying for it in taxes, but that's spread out a little bit and you're getting some improvements. You know, I'm not trying to kill the thing.
Yeah, no,
I'm just saying,
Because that was a conversation I had with the engineers today, that as far as the water line goes, I think that's a good capital project for Hadley, whether you build a garage or not, because there's a podge of pipes
I'll
down
keep
there.
it
There's
infrastructure.
That's a needed thing.
It's
with-
a needed
Yeah.
thing, period.
It saves some,
That should be an article on its own.
Yes.
yeah.
And I'm hoping to have that number. They think they can pull it together relatively quick.
Okay. Now, who did you say is coming to visit next week, possibly?
The DEP's coming for
DEP
inspection.
They're doing a big thing on the sewer. They have to have all the books, all the numbers, how much they've
So
pumped,
they're gonna
hauled,
be poking around, so,
Are they
fire
gonna be poking on the rest of the
inspections.
place, or just pretty much just with the sewer, you don't know?
on the compounds of the property, that's all I can tell you.
Okay.
You know what happens? What are you doing over there?
Oh, don't I have that experience, unfortunate. They come in to inspect one thing,
Because I know.
and depending on the person that's going to inspect, they're either, you know, well, I'm here to look at this.
Yeah.
And they come in with blinders. Other ones come in like, well, what else
Yeah.
can I see?
I know the inspector already requested a ton of documents that you wouldn't even dream about
He had to pull up the fire,
having.
smoke detectors and all that reports for the last couple of years. All the sludge, all the numbers for everything
Even
that's
the
gone
small
in and
stuff.
out. Fire
Where's the life
extinguisher
jackets to be
inspection.
around those clarifiers? Where's the life rings? Where's all the dates on this that this isn't gonna be a good inspection. I can see that already.
Two of the outside lights aren't working. We're
here.
waiting on a grant from the green communities to try to get that put in for 6 months.
It's the way it goes.
Okay. Okay, well, that would be, depending what they find, hopefully nothing serious for a lot of reasons, but, that's a report that we could look at. I mean, what I'm talking about is, if we don't build the garage, what cost are we going to incur over the next couple of years to address what is there today?
well, yeah, what are we gonna get forced into, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be long before your trailers are gonna be forced to be removed because of,
Yeah, my biggest, I mean, I guess we let the cat out of the bag when, you know, you talk publicly about this vehicle washing situation, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that concerns me. I'll leave it at that.
Yes, that's why you haven't heard me say much about that. Because, okay.
So, Randy, do you think Scott's idea about getting another article about knocking down the house would be something that you would consider, or, you know, if things, I don't know how it would be worded or what?
Well, was that included in their specs? I don't
It
think-
was.
I think
It was
so.
in
What they
there.
included.
It's
okay.
broke out though. Remember we talked about this. Their number was pretty
Pretty
close
close,
to the
right.
one that we
The abatement
got
number
up
was
on
pretty
our
close.
own. Yeah. So that.
It wasn't, I think it was in there, house demo.
Because if that's a possibility, and I guess, I don't know if it would screw up the possibility of passing the whole project or not, but if it doesn't get passed, it'd be great to get rid of the house and know what the new salt shed would cost, and what maybe a cost to get rid of the old salt shed. Scott, lump the three together, or just do the house?
Well, here's part of the problem. That salt shed doesn't have to be moved right now unless you're building a new building.
Yeah.
To put one out back, you're gonna have to pave the whole area out back there, run conduit for it for lights and everything.
So you'd rather just
I
leave
mean,
it?
Yeah. After our last meeting, I did talk to Greg as requested about. Somebody asked, forget about, you know, doing the project like that. I mean, like he said, anything can be done, but it's an expense, and he's like, sometimes temporary things cost a ton of money.
you know, you're gonna run power to that from somewhere
Yeah,
else,
he's
and then
like,
you're gonna have to
gotta
rerun
figure
it
out
when
how
you
to
do this.
You know, positioning of the building. Are the trailers going to be able to back in there with the corner of the pole barn? He's like, there's a lot of variables for this. He's like, anything can be done, but it comes with a price.
Sure.
And-
And David, to your point, if we have so many articles regarding this, I mean, well, if this doesn't happen, then we're gonna do this, and if that doesn't happen, we're gonna do that. It's gonna be so confusing to
And then
everybody.
you get the people stand up, so all three of these are gonna cost us this much?
Yeah.
You could also shoot yourself in the foot, and some people will say, well, you can do this, let's vote those down, because we're just gonna
That's
go for
No,
that. You know,
that's true.
there's no good answer here.
Right. I think that if after Springtown meeting, we see where we're at, and then if it makes sense
Right.
to go for what you're talking about in the fall,
Okay.
then we could do that. But I think we just need to let it be.
And a water line should be, maybe if we can get it on this town meeting, that should be done.
Yeah, that'd
Irregardless.
be an enterprise thing. That's a different. I don't think that necessarily should be something that should be looped into this project. That's something that the whole
Right,
town's
that's
going
what
to
I'm saying.
benefit. Hey, you know, every
we're not
resident on
including
the
that.
street's going to have, you know, good water, plenty of fire protection, etc. That's a capital project, as far as I'm concerned, for the
Yeah.
water district. Or of Hadley.
Does the DPW benefit out of it? Yeah, the DPW facility would benefit out of it in that you'd save about $200,000 if the water line was there, because you wouldn't have to put in the backup fire system, not the cistern with a water pump, fire pump. So yeah, that would be safe, but then that's not in here anyways. That would be an additional cost if the water line wasn't approved.
Well,
So-
and then the other side of that is, from when I was a kid to now, is double the amount of houses.
Right.
You know, that you got 3 fire hydrants on the whole stretch. And if they tapped into 2 fire hydrants, it wouldn't have any pressure anyways.
I don't think you'd tap it if you had it in the one.
Take your shuttle.
You know.
But yeah, like I said, I think the water line, in my opinion, I mean, it's something I gotta obviously bring to the board. I think it's a capital project that benefits
Yeah.
the infrastructure of Hadley, period, not necessarily the garage, you know?
And if people ask the question, would the DPW facility benefit out of it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We would.
Yeah.
There's no question.
But every other
It would
resident
be
in that area does
If you
too.
don't put the water line in, we're gonna put a cistern in with a water pump.
And that was what, a couple hundred?
He said about 200 grand or
250,
250, something like that.
Yeah.
But at some point, that water line is gonna have to get replaced.
Right.
Anyways,
Exactly.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
we say, oh, we're gonna save however much money and put the cistern in, but in
We're
3
still
years,
gonna-
we're gonna come back and say, oh, by the way, we gotta redo that water line now, and
Yeah,
we just spent that 200 grand for nothing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, okay. Want to set up another meeting? I don't think we need it in 2 weeks, but
So, let's see, it is,
today's the 5th.
we got April, May, we got less than 2 months till town meeting.
Yes.
So, we should talk about an open house. We're gonna do that?
Yeah. I would think so. Probably want to do that in April when it's warmer weather out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like the
Touch a truck.
third week in April, something like that. Second or third week.
Yep. April 1st is on a Tuesday. So I would think you'd want to do that. On a weekend would be the best time for open
Yeah,
house, wouldn't it?
Saturday.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Saturday again, yeah.
Saturday. 4/12 is the second Saturday.
And the 19th is the day before Easter.
Yeah, that's not going to be. 4/12 is, that's Palm, 4/12 is the Sunday, Saturday before Palm Sunday, but that's not so bad. Maybe 4 or 5 would be better. That way it's not before anything. What is it? What does Mr. Scott think, and Gary?
It's 4 weeks away.
We basically do what we did the last time, right?
Right.
We know all the players we need to get on board. Gary needs to learn how to cook. I mean, cook.
Do I have to wash my hands?
No.
I mean,
I'm not getting paid, I'm not a
It
kid.
gives us a month to plan it.
Yeah.
Jimmy, are you on the 5th, not around?
The what?
Are you around on the 5th?
Oh, shit, that's right. I'll be in a wedding, and you're right, thank you for reminding me.
I got your dog's name on there, so
You're right. I'm going to a wedding in Florida then.
I was getting a spa day, that's all.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm in
thank you.
Baltimore, but that doesn't matter.
Sorry, so
Use
use my language.
The 12th, to me, is a good day. The only thing I'll point out that it says Passover on
Passover,
my
yeah.
calendar, if that matters to anybody. We're concerned about the Saturday before Easter, so I'll just point out that it's
Yeah,
Passover
Saturday
on
before
the
Easter is
12th.
not a good one. That's a holy week, it'd be for a lot of people, wouldn't be able to do it.
Right.
The 26th is probably too close to, town meeting is what the,
First.
yeah, support, the 26th is too close
It's-
to. Well,
Doesn't matter if it's
now wait a
fresh.
minute, let's think about
Fresh.
that. Is right before
Right.
town meeting a bad thing?
No, I don't think so.
It would
I
be
don't think
fresh
it's
in
a bad
everybody's mind.
Yep.
They don't
It'll
have
be
a
up-
lot of time to think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about it.
Yeah. It's like going to the grocery store
It'll be
hungry.
fresh on everybody's mind. We can have different little get-togethers as far as meetings and stuff like that, and do things like that, but maybe that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think go with the 26th. It'll be warmer.
True.
When's the
Yeah.
Easter Bunny get taken around?
What? Yeah. That may not be a
Make a stop
bad
down
thing,
there instead of,
you know? It gives more time to plan it. And like I said, it'll be fresh in everybody's mind right before town meeting.
Rick, I can get you an extra suit.
When's our town meeting?
Or May
May
1.
1st, I believe.
May 1st, Thursday?
That's a
Yeah.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless they postpone it again.
Typically,
I think the 26th is good for the open house.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. I'm not gonna be around, but fine by me.
What's your workload in the cruise in April?
Hopefully snow will be done.
Well, no.
Well, the thing is about that, is not gonna have early April, you know, occasionally we have a storm, but by
Well, yeah,
then.
but I'm just, you know.
Yeah, I don't see
It
Then
that.
you could just take people out for rides in the plow trucks.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't.
We'll have
see
some
that
extra
being a
spares, they can take their own.
Well, it's almost like, you're ending one season before you really start the next one, right?
And you know,
So you
Scott,
know.
I don't know what you did last time, I didn't go.
Why
But
not?
It was too far away. But
Uber wouldn't give you a ride?
you probably shouldn't take all the trucks out of the garage,
I agree.
restore them, jam them in there, like you do
Yeah,
every
like
day
you
now.
normally do.
Normally
Show-
park.
Show what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want junk thrown around, but you really do pack all those trucks in there.
Yeah.
And this is what we go through. and let people see
Well,
that.
put the trucks in there, like the ones that'll fit, and then something like the vac truck, especially if you could do what you had on that one picture. It doesn't fit. Drive it part way into the door.
Well,
and show.
leave it right where it is, it's hanging
Right,
out.
right.
Right outside the
Yeah, it
door.
doesn't
Show
fit
them
there
it
either.
doesn't fit.
Yeah, yeah.
And all of the other vehicles hanging around there, because you've got space for, let's say, 8 vehicles, whatever it might be. You've got more than 8 vehicles, and the other ones are just like parked out in front, because we need, we need this to maintain the town. But the space is limited to this, and that's
If you
just the
line up
basic
all
one.
your nice new trucks out in the field there, and
looks
they got a big empty garage,
Hall, dance hall inside.
people are gonna say, what do you need it for? You gotta do it like you're really operating. Don't fluff the place up. Clean it up, but don't
Clean it
fluff
up.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Real world, this is real world.
This is what it looks like every night. We spend, probably 15, 20 minutes in the morning getting certain vehicles out, whatever you're gonna use that day. And in the afternoon, you've gotta put stuff in, so, all right, might snow tonight, these have gotta be left in the back.
I get it.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, like I said, you hang a couple plows on something, Gary, like when we set it up, when there's snows
When
coming.
there's a snowstorm.
I mean, literally, you can't
try,
even.
yeah.
That's what we should do,
Okay.
is put the
Wow.
plows on it, cause that makes a big difference.
With that said, when do we want to have another meeting so we can talk about other plans and get it, do it in
Answers to
2
these
weeks?
questions.
Well, we gotta make sure this guy can draw up our,
Cause he said he's
Office
going
plan.
to,
yeah, he's
Oh,
gonna
that's
see
right.
overseas for a little couple weeks.
Yeah.
No, I think there's 2 separate issues here. We need to discuss this open
We don't
house.
need him to discuss this issue, because I can email him, get the information. Let's set it up tentatively right now for 4/19, next meeting, okay? Is that good for everybody?
Yeah.
I'll get a hold of Scott. Hopefully I can get the information out of him in 2 weeks, which I probably can't, because he's gonna be away for only a week.
319, you mean, right? Not 4.
I'm sorry, 3/19, yeah, you're right,
Yeah,
3/19,
that
3/19, I say, thank you. And I'll get this stuff from Greg, because he got back to me really quick on the other stuff. And this won't be, we're not talking a fancy drawing here, it can be a decent drawing, but with AutoCAD, it doesn't take him that much to do it. I'm assuming he has the garage dimensions more than likely.
we'd hope so.
And,
And this is to put offices in the existing garage and eliminate them from the other.
correct. Yeah, basically take,
Bring that building up to
like, I don't know what the split is.
Whatever it takes to
bring that up.
do it legally, and then we see, are we saving money, are we not, or is it a wash?
Yeah.
And then there's no argument, you can tell people we did our
Yeah.
job.
And then we can start planning for the open house as well. Get everything going on, who's gonna be doing what. And if there's any other public meetings, I don't know what the right word is, we're only gonna have one open house.
You want to talk about a forum or something like that where people could come and ask questions?
Yeah, maybe something like that would make sense. We could do that sometime. At the 3/19 meeting, we could talk if we want to do a public forum.
Should we put the plans, the renderings, like you showed the selectmen, on, say, Facebook? This way people can see these things and either be happy with it or be all ticked off about it, but then they can go to the open house and see the difference and why.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, I think we should make the,
It might get people to come to open house if they.
yeah, we should make the drawings, at least the footprint and I wouldn't do it until after the 3/19 meeting, if we find out what makes sense with the office space. But once we find out what makes sense with that, it's most likely gonna be the same building. We could put it on the webpage for the TV.
But also why not on Facebook to townspeople?
Yeah, it can't
Yeah.
hurt. I mean,
Yeah.
I-
Which,
go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry.
I was gonna say, what Facebook should we put it on? Create one just for the DPW?
Do we do that?
They
Or
have
do
one,
we do
right?
that community forum thing that some
We did
people
away
do?
with it.
There's a Hadley, whatever.
Boxing match.
I don't know what it is, but I don't
I'm not
get on
Facebook,
it, so.
yeah.
But I think, David, to your question, the more we can get this out in front of people, the better we're going to be. Number one, transparency.
Right, and the
And
less
number two,
questions you're gonna have to answer
This
down the
isn't
road.
like, I got a $10,000 car, I'm thinking about buying, and okay, yeah, I'll do it. They're gonna be, we need them to be able to think hard about it, you know, because,
Yeah, well, we can, between now and be ready for the 319, just, my only thing is, I think putting on Facebook is a great idea, but where on Facebook?
Well, I don't know that.
I don't know. I
ask
don't do
your son,
Facebook.
he's,
All I do is scroll through pictures, see if the
Yeah,
grandkids or whatever.
see if he has some ideas on how to put it on, a
I'll
recommendation.
try to remember to ask him tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because is there a town thing? I
There
don't
is
know.
not a town
No.
Facebook page, but there's a Hadley something or other.
He does that forum thing, or,
Yeah.
you know, I get that, and I see that stuff
I
all
mean,
the
even if we
time.
had to create a unique DPW Facebook page just for this project, we could do that. And maybe that might be the answer, I don't know.
It's just gonna be hard to get people exposed to it in a short
Right.
time, I think.
Oh,
But
okay.
check with David, and maybe he can tie something in with the town on that thing, with
Yeah.
DPW or whatever.
And if Alex was involved, you might put it on police and fire, or ask to put it on there.
Yeah, so I can ask Alex and I'll
It'll-
talk to
it'll go out
David as
there,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so 319 next meeting, open house 426. In the meantime, I got some list of things to ask Greg and get back to everybody on 319 and think about on 319. Any kind of like public forums we might want to have. We don't think we need probably more than one. We won't have time for much more than that, but then, and then something with the Facebook, or at least publicity.
You get a lot of people that come to the town meeting forums?
No.
So, you probably have to be part of that.
Well,
You would definitely get more exposure if we get it on some kind of media.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, the town meeting forum, you might get 6 or 8 people on Zoom,
Yeah.
and maybe a couple in the audience, so
Yeah,
it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that it shows that we want people to know, whether they come or not, at least we can say, look, we tried. It's
Yeah.
not like we're trying to hide this from anybody. We want it out there, we want you to come and ask questions. So,
About that Nextel thing where they send out,
Nexel?
Nexel, is that what it is?
yeah,
Nixon,
reverse whatever.
I don't know if that's-
Can we put something on that to tell people, go to Facebook or whatever to see the plans, or can we put the plans on that?
I don't know, I think that's only a phone service.
Oh, okay.
yeah, but you could put it on TV5 to, let's say we had a Facebook page. TV5 could put on there during their thing, go to this website or Facebook page or whatever it might be to look at the plans of the town meeting, I mean of the DPW garage.
Yeah.
You get it out to the right people on Facebook, it'll,
Yeah,
I'm not on Facebook, but
Yeah, I think
it's gonna be a
if,
boxing match
Yeah,
from
I
the
think-
goods and the bad.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, is
Yeah.
somebody here gonna manage that, or just not respond to anything?
I'm not sure how it works 100%, but the one, you know, Davidson does the Hadley community one.
Yeah.
He can put it on there, and he can lock out even commenting on there.
Yeah.
Like, here it
Yeah.
is, this is what you're
You're
showing.
right,
and
because
you can't
people are
even
gonna say,
say boo to it.
Yeah,
It's just-
We're not necessarily looking for comments.
Right,
We're just
but-
looking
right,
for
right.
viewing.
Yeah.
But if you
Right.
put it in the wrong spot, then you're gonna get all the,
the people that
Oh,
are
yeah.
against it,
Right.
you know, where,
bad
where,
mouth
where this way, you have a little bit of
depending on the time of the
control
night.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I can find out, but yeah, we definitely don't wanna have to be able to answer questions.
Manage and try to.
To
yeah.
respond to
Did
that
you do
stuff.
it right?
No,
Did you do it
no,
right?
no.
No, just like,
Yeah.
Is it bad to hear their response if we don't?
Well, if people start asking questions and you don't respond, you may turn a lot of people off.
Yeah, and the other problem is, with that, you're gonna get somebody that, I hate this thing, and then Tommy says, oh, Randy hates it, well, I'm gonna hate it too, because he
well,
does.
that's, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to put it someplace where it's just viewable.
Then you got the people that say, Randy hates it, I'm never talking to him again.
Well, that's, yeah.
That too.
Because that comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Randy's, I don't care.
Randy's not gonna, he's gonna get disliked or whatever they call it.
Anything else?
left.
That's why we-
Motion motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting history, thank you, everyone.